I use a doll and other neopronouns. Anything can be a gender because we made that bullshit up.
Uses the same pronouns as me, and there's only been one. And honestly, that is really scary.
Z is so fun to hang out with.
Zay went to the moon, and I followed Zer.
Hey guys, it's Misha and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about neopronouns, and a question that I get asked quite often is why I think we need to talk about this. Why can't we just ignore it and then it'll go away on its own? First of all, it's not going away on its own. Ignoring it is what got us here in the first place. And it's not just about the delusion that these people have, right? Like they can identify as a tree and we all have to respect that and, use tree pronouns. As ridiculous as that is, that's not why I think this is important. And them trying to police our language is an issue. And the main thing here is that we have to play along with their delusion to be considered respectful. That's what I have an issue with. Here's just one recent example of why this ideology is dangerous. So a prosecutor was suspended for misgendering and dead naming a trans child molester accused of murder. Hannah Tubbs went by James Tubbs when he attacked a 10-year-old girl in a Denny's bathroom. She allegedly began identifying as female after being arrested in connection with the 2014 child molestation case in which she pleaded guilty to attacking a 10-year-old girl in a Denny's bathroom stall. Tubbs was accused of sexually molesting a 4-year-old girl at a California library in August 2013 while her mother was browsing books just a few aisles over. So this is absolutely disgusting, and it's disgusting that the prosecutor is the one who's being suspended for misgendering and dead naming this person. If you don't know what dead naming is, it's when you use their original name, they transition, then that's considered a dead name. Very convenient. Not like this guy is trying to get in the female prison at all, right?
Bragged in jailhouse phone calls to his dad about getting a plea deal. As Tubbs could actually be out within months and living next door to any of us.
There will be no restrictions. He will not have to register as a sex offender. He will not have to be on probation, supervision, anything.
Even if this is putting women in danger, right, they have to be respectful. And this is what these TikTokers preach, for example, that if they say that they are trans one day and then non-binary the next, and then they identify as a rock, you have to respect those pronouns. And if you don't respect them, you are transphobic. So this whole gender ideology isn't just a sad case of delusion. It's actually dangerous. Men are now allowed in women-only spaces because we have to be politically correct. With that being said, let's take a look at some of these social justice warriors teaching children how to use neopronouns, why they're so valid, and why it's all about respect. It went by itself. I also like rot and doll neopronouns. They work exactly the same. Rot looks nice, doll's hair is cool. No. What bugs me too is when people say, this is just on TikTok. This doesn't happen in real life. Everything that these kids are watching, they end up acting that out in school and then later on in college and at work. In my university, I had people identify as they, them with the X, right? Which is a neopronoun. It's only a matter of time before rot self is coming to a classroom near you. Trust me.
Yes, I go strictly by dragon selfie. I'm confused about my sexuality. But for now I am neuroasexual. I'm taken. I have multiple mental illnesses.
Yeah, are we surprised? No.
I want to use neopronouns. What's that? Neo means new. For Barry, you'd say they went to the moon on a rocket ship.
This is like a person showing us how they would explain this to a kid.
What if I used they, zer pronouns? Huh? If I was telling you about Jordan, I might say Zay went to the moon and I followed Zer. How come you don't use they, them? I want to try different words that suit me better. Ones that aren't associated with gender binaries.
See, so this is a step beyond non-binary. It's not a big step, but it's a step, because what non-binary people think is that because they are, outside of the binary, right? They're not on the spectrum between man and woman. They are now without a gender, so they're free. First of all, delusion. This is a very similar sort of delusion, except now they realize, oh, by saying we're non-binary, we're admitting that there's a binary, meaning a man and a woman. So let's take this a step further and say we are a tree, or we're a book, or we're a TV, or we're a glass of water. Those are our pronouns, right? We're just going to use nouns at this point because gender isn't real. It sounds a lot crazier when we're talking about, they, them, and neopronouns. It's really not. It's a very similar sort of delusion.
You know me. You know that I'm all for expression of self-identity.
Look, it's the lesbian Snow White.
But these neopronouns have got to stop.
Wow, so you really don't care. Hello friends, it's Lesbian Snow White here, aka the Pronoun Gal, and aka your worst nightmare. And this video has triggered a lot of people, including myself. So if you're someone who identifies with a neopronoun or wants to identify with a neopronoun, but you don't feel like you can because of selfish bananas like this one,
You know, she's very different here. This isn't her usual bubbly, let's talk about rat self and bubble self. No, this is how I act when people misgender me, right? This is how I act when people don't use rat self. It's for the camera. They act really nice and respectful, and they just want to teach you about neopronouns. And then when you misgender them, they'll show their true colors.
and I promise we will make a difference in this world. And that this person, who is 20 years old, might I add, will be very ashamed of themselves for making a video like this.
What does being 20 have anything to do with this? She's the one who acts and dresses like she's 12. I'm just wondering, oh, she's 20 and she's saying things like this. Girl, you think people can identify as like a pencil. What are you talking about?
I explain this to you nicely, but you don't deserve it. I use a doll and other neopronouns because of synesthesia.
If you haven't seen my last video on why I think there's a connection with these people who are, you know, constantly talking about gender ideology and hair and makeup and style, just keep that in mind while watching these videos.
It's because of synesthesia, the connection of words to feelings or other things. Gender is a social construct. This is scientifically proven. Therefore, anything can be a gender because we made that bullshit up.
Gender is not a social construct. I'm so sorry that you have been lied to and that's what you believe now. It's not true. It's not true. Okay? There are males and there are females, and you are not a doll.
Neopronouns are most commonly used by neurodivergent individuals because of different understandings of social constructs, like gender.
This is not an argument. Hear me out. To say, you know, these neopronouns are used by neurodivergent people. Okay, so people who are not neurotypical, people who have mental issues are using neopronouns. Think about that for a second. Should we say, oh yeah, then that makes perfect sense. If someone has a mental issue and they decide to identify as a doll, well, then yeah. That proves that it makes sense. No. It proves that you need to go get help. You're not they, them. You're not a doll. You're not a piece of pizza. Like, please seek therapy for your neurodivergent issues, whatever that is for you, whatever issue you are suffering from, whatever mental illness, and for the fact that you think you're not a man or a woman. That's likely a result of you being neurodivergent. That's why we think these people need to get help. What it's not proving is that, oh yeah, because people with mental illness think that they are a tree, that makes sense, right? We should make them happy. If a schizophrenic person said, oh my god, I'm the president. Oh, well, if you have schizophrenia and you're saying so and it makes you happy if we say, yes, you are the president, we should all, start calling them the president, right? No. If you care about them, you would say you need to get help. You need to speak up against it because it's not true. And if you start silencing people who say, no, actually, you're not the president, if we start suspending them, if we start arresting them, that's a problem.
I use they, them pronouns. The person you're saying is disrespectful to is me. I'm diagnosed with gender dysphoria. I just have different gender dysphoria because I'm autistic.
Different gender dysphoria because you're autistic? Your therapist said, oh yeah, you think you're a doll, so you have gender dysphoria? That's another issue, actually, is when we start saying, get help. I say that all the time because I think these people really do need help. But then I also think a lot of therapists, they will lose their license if they don't immediately affirm your gender identity. That's an issue as well, because there's definitely something going on here. But saying, yes, you have gender dysphoria, you're actually a doll trapped in a human's body, that's not right.
Neurodivergent trans people don't owe you an explanation for their existence.
Yeah, you don't have to explain it, but we don't have to agree with that, right? We don't have to say, yes, you're a doll because you're neurodivergent. By the way, you don't have to tell us you're neurodivergent. By you saying, I use doll self or whatever, I think I'm a doll, we already know. They think that if they start identifying as a cupcake, they're free, right? They're not a man or a woman. The argument is that gender is subjective. It's how you feel inside. It's how you experience gender. And if you experience your gender as a cupcake or a man today but a woman tomorrow, or neither or both, that's your truth. And if you feel like you're a woman the day before your trial, we all have to respect that and put you in the women's prison. And just let them force this agenda on us because it's all about being nice. It's all about being respectful.
Let's talk about the pronouns ze, zir, which are one of the many awesome sets of neopronouns out there. There are a few different spellings and pronunciations of ze, zir pronouns, but this is one of the more common ones. So let's practice using them in a sentence. Z is so fun to hang out with. I only met Z recently, but Z energy is radiant, and I know Z is going to be a great friend.
Okay, now your turn. Let's practice with me. Ready? Z needs help. Z is delusional. Let's find Zer a good therapist that won't affirm this insanity.
A lot of people try to use random words and make them into neopronouns, but do it as a joke, and those people, it is not very good.
Oh, but if it's not done as a joke, then that's totally fine. They're not crazy. That makes sense, right? As long as they're respectful.
That's wonderful. It all depends on whether the person is genuine or not with their intentions.
See Morgan today? I have your book and I want to return it to them. I'm sorry, what language are you speaking?
Exactly. They make up their own language.
English? Those are neopronouns. What's that? Okay, so instead of using he, she, or they, Morgan uses them pronouns. Does that make sense? Seen them since then. Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it. Bye.
Again, showing us how we would do this around children, referring to children in school.
TikTok never fails to make me hate my identity. I've been doing research on neopronouns all evening, specifically them, zer pronouns, because those are the pronouns that I use. And I am literally shaking right now because I am just so upset at what I had to see. Most of the results either express their hatred towards them or their very vague explanation.
Because it makes no sense.
I tried scrolling through there. It's just hate after hate after hate. And now I have to decide if making this series could endanger my safety.
Please be so for real right now. This is going to endanger your safety by us not calling you them. Talk about safety. Talk about allowing anyone to identify as whatever they want and then being housed with female inmates. Let's talk about safety. You being triggered or you having a temper tantrum because no one will call you a made-up pronoun, that's not putting you in danger.
I looked and I looked for another account that's either as big as me or bigger that is a person of color.
What does your race have anything to do with this? They'll always get race involved.
That uses the same pronouns as me, and there's only been one. And honestly, that is really scary.
No, you know what's scary? Turning on the news and seeing that you can get suspended if you misgender a child molester. That's scary. You know who that's scary for? For female inmates, for the parents of the victim, for future victims. That's scary. For women in general, that is a problem. For men, that's a problem who have wives, who have female friends, who have girlfriends, who have daughters. It's scary.
And this is why it's important to be inclusive of neopronouns. This creator is currently facing backlash.
Oh my god, Benji, from our last video, when he was going on his rant about, white privilege.
It's currently facing backlash for educating people on how to use neopronouns like frog.
Educating us on using frogs.
The argument is that such pronouns are taking things too far and justify hatred towards the LGBTQIA+ community. The same argument is often used against flamboyant gay men, that they're doing too much and encouraging homophobia.
Hating someone for being a feminine man is not the same thing as saying, hey, how are you identifying as a frog? Doesn't make any sense. Apparently, to him, it's the same thing.
But we can't claim to support inclusion and freedom for the LGBTQIA+ community if we're not willing to try our best to accommodate something that's as inconsequential to us as using people's pronouns. Hope that helps, and if it did, you should pre-order my book.
Oh my god, that helps so much. I bet he feels so good after virtue signaling and, being able to educate us.
It's the summer 2021, I came out as bigender, identifying as male and non-binary. The non-binary part is what I consider makes me trans, as I was born male. But it just so happens that at the same time, I had taken interest into using neopronouns. As for me personally, since I don't feel gender the same way as everyone else when it comes to the subject of binary pronouns, although I still go by he, him, neopronouns help me feel gender euphoria when they're made up of my special interests. Interest in some aspect that helps them with self-presentation doesn't mean their identity equates to it. The simplest way I can explain it is, let's say that you have a favorite t-shirt that makes you feel confident. Just because you're wearing the t-shirt and it makes you feel nice and comfortable doesn't mean that you are the t-shirt.
Exactly though. You can love your pet bunny and that's just something you're really interested in. Doesn't mean it's who you are. Doesn't mean your pronouns are now bun self. You are proving my point. Okay, so what have I learned? I think this is as chronically online as it gets, and it's important to talk about this because there are kids who are getting brainwashed by watching these videos. The target, after all, seems to be kids because all these, adult TikTokers seem to really love educating children and showing us how they would talk about neopronouns with children. And of course, the message here is that it's totally okay to police other people's language because they may feel a certain way. And that is something we should be pushing back against. And that's all for today's video, guys. If you enjoyed, please leave a like. Also, comment your thoughts below. Follow me on Instagram, and remember to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss my next video, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!